Alrighty, Beyonders, welcome back to Tabletop and Beyond. I'm your host, Justin Smith. I'm here with Dan the Man Pomeroy and Jason the Basin Bales. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything that rhymed with your name right offhand.
Fine.
What was your nickname growing up? Did you have one?
Jay.
Jay. Oh, fair enough. All right, that's pretty easy.
We all sound so surprised.
I know. Yeah. I had a lot of hey, Justin the Nick of Time.
Yeah.
You know?
They called me Jam and Jay.
Jam and Jay.
I wore jams. You remember those?
Or I thought you meant jammies.
No, those colorful like 80s shorts.
Oh yeah. All right. That was your signature move right there, huh?
That was my signature, yeah.
Wearing jams
Jam
and Jam and Jay.
I don't know where to go with any of this.
We go to the next part of our show.
All right.
That's right. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We missed last week because it was Thanksgiving week. We spent some time with our family being thankful for all the things that we have. We've got a show coming up in a couple of weeks where we're going to talk about not only the things we're thankful about, but our Christmas wish list. It's our annual Santa's wish list that we're going to be doing. So I'm excited about that.
It's a holiday tradition, and we can't let it go. And we're going to have some songs from the Muppets and John Denver. It's going to be great.
It will be awesome. It will be very good.
Oh, he's
dead. Yeah. Well, now we're going to have it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm excited to talk about this one because we've been talking about doing this kind of a thing. Sometimes we get review copies of RPGs or products that different companies put out, like Chaosium or Free League or something like that. And every now and then they'll put out a gag order saying like you can't talk about it until X date. And the date that we can't talk about our product, which is called Alone Against the Static, it is a solo RPG from Chaosium, is the 29th of November, which is tomorrow technically. So we're all going to be good because by the time this episode comes out, you will hear about it. So we're going to talk about it. We had the opportunity to pick it up, try it out, take it for a little spin. We're going to give you our thoughts about that. But before we obviously get into that, how was your Geek Week, Dan Pomeroy?
Oh, wow. All right. I had one awesome RPG session and one terrible RPG session.
Ugh.
Which one should I start with?
The awesome one, because I want to go into the terrible.
Okay. Awesome was it took us 4 months, even though we were playing once a month because we had to skip a month. We did a casino arc where we were playing Star Wars Sabacc. This is part of our Star Wars West Marches Edge of the Empire game. We were flying chips around, and lo and behold, we had one character kind of drive Lando, and Lando won Cloud City fair and square. It was pretty awesome. And even though the opponents, the NPCs were cheating and 2 other players had made it to the final table, they lost all their money, but Lando won. And so it was great. We didn't break canon, which was fun because he was on there. He was part of the cabal of people to win. And West Marches, it sounds like bad news, but it's dead. We've killed it. We put a bullet in West Marches. We're not West Marching anymore. I'm just the GM, and I got players playing Edge of the Empire. And we're kind of throwing a lot of the old West Marches stuff in the trash. If anybody else wants to run a game who's from this group, people go, cool, whatever. But that doesn't happen anymore. We started off with about 20-ish players. We're down to four regular players and 1 GM. So that's just an RPG group. And I said, hey, guys, can we just kill West Marches? And everybody's like, yeah. Can we keep playing? And the answer is yeah. So
let me ask you this. Do you think that most West Marches games end up like this? That they all just kind of fizzle down into a gaming group that you do regularly and one guy's kind of the de facto GM?
Yes, but that's my only experience. That's my only experience with it. Because, with any of these, you will have one player, and he knows who he is, who never missed a single session, no matter who was GMing. That guy was grubbing for XP constantly, and he's great. We love him. He's fantastic. But some of the GMs did a great job. Some of them got tired of GMing, and some of them would if they had time. So the only thing that worked was having one GM say, we're going to get together on one regular time, which is the 3rd Saturday or whatever, And you're all invited. And I posted on the Discord. Everybody can show up. I don't care. I'll GM 12 people. I don't care. But that won't happen. So anyway, it grounded to, I put a bullet in it. I just said, okay, guys, we're all done here. And everybody nodded their heads on, yep, we're all done here. So that's still good news. There's no bad news there. We did it. We tried.
It's the evolution, right?
It worked.
Evolution's not a bad thing.
We learned from it, right? And it's okay. We'll just keep plowing through. I had a terrible RPG session. Look, they don't listen to this podcast. Wouldn't it be nice if they did? If they're mad at me for talking publicly about this situation, then I'd be like, wow, you decided to listen to my podcast. Right. So you know how sometimes in an RPG session, one person will be kind of micromanaging the story and be doing like 80% of the 90% of the talking with the GM. And that person starts micromanaging what everybody else is doing. And then everybody else slowly starts checking out, especially, if phones are buzzing and stuff like that. And I decided to assert myself as kind of the player because I was the hacker in the group and we had an AI we were making a loose alliance with to go after another AI. And we went through all these steps to isolate it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make my roll now. And she flipped out. She lost it. She's like, well, I'm not ready. No, not yet. This doesn't sound right. We're not doing this yet. I'm like,
the GM or the
GM? No, the GM was like, roll your, here's the situation. Your character is here. Roll your dice. And I'm like, okay, dice, roll.
Yeah.
And she lost her mind. She's like, well, that's it. I'm out of here. And I'm like, well, maybe I should leave if I'm the person that's screwing everything up. Anyway, we both walked out. And then we walked to her car. We've been friends for 30 years, by the way. And we talked it out. We hugged it out. We turned around and we came back in and everybody else was cleaning up to go home. So we said, let's just finish playing. We have another session scheduled in January, but I don't know what to do. I feel like.
Do you think it's a product of the system or just the dynamics of the group? Because you've been playing with this group for a long time, right?
Yeah. Well, her GM is her husband, who is fine-tuned not to piss her off in any situation.
So she everybody else own house?
Huh? No, we were in somebody else's house.
Oh, okay.
We were in another player's house. Yeah, she was like, I'll come back to pick you up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was a really weird situation. So we don't talk about bad RPG sessions because most of them are good, but I don't think we should be afraid to say, oh, hey, I had a bad RPG session.
Yeah,
so I'm talking about it publicly in a podcast.
Well, and I think it's important to identify, like, what were the dynamics that made it not go right? Because, like, obviously you were feeling stifled by having, basically you had like a babysitter in there, right?
Oh, yeah, you couldn't do anything unless you got the go-ahead. Right. And if I made a list of all the ideas that got shot down during the night by one player, it would be a pretty good list.
Listen,
So.
I had a session that I played at our good friend Sean Fielding's house, and it was just me and another guy that ended up showing up, and we're playing this little Star Wars campaign. So it's like a 2-player, one shot that we're playing, and I was this Bothan that was like, and he was like an Ewok or something like that, but we were escaping from some sort of like cyborg genetic testing lab thing. So we like had heightened like intelligence and like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so we escaped and he ended up being able to successfully hack the computer to undock the ship from the space station. And we kind of flew off and we're supposed to go do something else. But he's like, hey, can I talk to you real quick in the kitchen? And I was like, okay, like it's just me and him. It's not like me, him, and the GM. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, okay. So we get in the kitchen and he looks at me dead in the eye and he goes, I just want you to know that this is my ship and you will do what I say on this ship. And I was like, oh, and I started to laugh and he just looked at me like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, oh, shoot, look at the time. I got to go. And that's I left because I was like, dude, this is like some sort of weird energy that's going on.
You got to tell me off camera who that was.
That's really funny because I would have expected you to be like, okay, you got it. And you went in there and you're like, okay, I go up the command deck, lock the door, hit the thruster.
Yeah. And I'm out.
Take off. Yeah, and I'm out. And then I hit the escape pod and leave.
So to be fair, Jason, that's what I probably should have done. I was too young in my RPGing
Mm.
career to know how to really mess with the situation in game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Power dynamics are very strange. And
Man, you guys,
don't
I
know.
have yet to have an experience like this with another player. I've had bad GMs.
Yeah.
mhm,
I've never come to a table where a player has made it a bad experience.
yeah.
All my time.
That can
role-playing.
happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just a lot of
I look forward to
things
the
that
day.
you don't, it doesn't just, you don't start there. You end up there. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a path, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm on the path. Well, I was on my phone too much while other things were being micromanaged.
Yeah.
And I'd
Yeah, I
guess that's a
optimized
good
my
point.
characters to do things that were not being useful. And I'm like, oh, hey, I have a combat character and a hacker. Do you need me? No, we need the hacker in 10 minutes. You sit there and do nothing. Okay, I'll do nothing.
Yeah, I have had players at Gen Con where like they'll go to a game that they know and they love,
Yeah.
and they become like really good friends with. They show up early, they become fast friends with the DM because
Yeah.
he's like the one he's running this game that they absolutely love, and I'm like,
They
I've never
share a
played this game
passion.
before. Yeah, and so they kind of take on the role of like Sherpa a little bit, like
Yeah.
trying to help us like have a good experience where it's like, dude, you're just kind of getting in the way. You know what I mean? But it wasn't terrible, you know, but I could see a little bit of that sort of like, oh, now you guys can do this because you don't know that rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Nothing bothers me. Nothing. My camera's going all whack, but nothing bothers me more than a GM that warns me not to do something, and then when I insist on doing it, he tells me, "No, you shouldn't do that." I'm like, "No, I understand.
Yeah.
I
I'm going
want to
do
put
this.
myself into
Yeah.
the canon."
I was the player doing that, and I had another player freaking out on me because the
no.
GM's like, this is what we agreed to 5
Yeah.
minutes ago. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is what we agreed to 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And outside, she's like, I don't understand what you're doing. And I said, I'm just trying to have fun with my character. I'm just trying to
role-playing.
play the game and have fun. And I
Yeah.
thought it was an acceptable risk for my character. And oh my gosh, it was a bad scene. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got people in that group I've known for decades,
Yeah.
so I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm sure you'll work it out.
You'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
You might need a new game though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jason, how was your Geek Week?
I had a fun Geek Week. I've started playing Darkest Dungeon again. That's another one of those that I pick up every year or so.
Yep.
And play it for a little while, just because I love the artwork and the theme and the music, and it's
Have you
just a
ever
great
beaten it?
game.
Have you
No,
ever like gotten through the Darkest Dungeon?
no, absolutely not. And I always tell myself I'm going to do it this time, and
Yeah.
I have. I love it, absolutely love it. It's one, in my opinion, it's like all praises for that development team.
Oh
But
yeah.
my interest has never lasted long enough to take myself through the Darkest Dungeon. I
You
usually
really
get
have to
through.
go through
There's
a
like
lot.
the wield and the
Yeah.
different things. I usually get a few of the boss ways. There's like stages of bosses. I get a few stages of the bosses through all of them, and then I usually get distracted and then don't come back to it for a year.
Yeah.
But
It happens.
it happens. But so and that's one of those games like I can't ever really just come back and pick up where I left off because I don't remember like how I was comboing my 4 people and all that stuff. And they usually I usually will try, I'll come back, I'll start it up, and then they're all dead. Like, because I can't remember how I was using them effectively. Or anything like that. But anyways, that's a great game. And a great studio that kind of put that together. The other thing I did was
That's good.
I played around with GPT and 11 Labs using the code that Charlie Holtz put up on his GitHub and made available to everybody, right? Where he had David Attenborough narrating his life, right? Where he took pictures of himself, and he had David Attenborough narrating as if he was watching him from like, whatever it is, like Planet Earth or something.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny, so I decided to download the code. I created my API keys, and I took his code and I uploaded some images. Let me share my screen and see if you can see this. Okay, share screen. I got to do this every time, and I'm gonna try to share my audio so that you can see it. So you gotta let it in, host, since I'm not a.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got you.
So right there, I took that picture with my camera, and I sent it to ChatGPT, and I told it to narrate it. And let me see. Bring the code up here. I told it to narrate it As if you were a member of the KGB during the 80s, describe the picture of a human as an example of childish Western influence. Make it sound frustrated and don't repeat yourself. So that's the image I sent it. And let's see if you can hear this. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
Behold the very epitome of Western decadence. An individual displaying a grotesque facial expression and making what they consider a rock and roll hand gesture. Undoubtedly
Amazing.
influenced by the lowbrow so-called music culture that glorifies rebellion without cause. Notice the black t-shirt, likely emblazoned with capitalist or bourgeois symbols, worn as a uniform of his trivial resistance. It is this juvenile manner that we must relentlessly oppose to maintain the strength and moral fortitude of our society.
Well done. I love it.
Right? And that was so that was with GPT. They have a new API where you can set it images and it'll describe the image based on how I seeded it, right? And then I took the output of the text that it gave me and I sent it to 11 Labs, which is, you know, all about creating like synthetic voices. And I told it to use a voice that was like an American Italian accent. That was the closest I could get to something I thought would sound fun there. So,
And it came up with British.
yeah, ish. Yeah.
Ish.
But
British-ish.
pretty fun. And I got it to where I can just hit a button and it'll take a screen capture with my camera and then it'll upload it all and pick a voice and go. So it's a little fun, just toying around with stuff.
I picked the wrong week to leave Facebook.
right.
Should be posting videos. This
I didn't
magnificent
post that. I
specimen
should
of
have
a
posted
man.
it. I should have posted it.
Yeah.
That'd have been funny.
I love how it made fun of your t-shirt as a tool.
I know.
bourgeoisie.
Wow.
I know.
Your
AI
your
had nothing
supposed
else
rebellion.
to go off of.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Oh,
That's great.
that's a geeky.
awesome.
That's a geeky week right there.
Yeah. Let's see. So for my Geek Week, two things. One, I played a game. I have finally convinced my family to start playing more games with me. And the trick that I have now is anytime I pull out a game that's not one that they've played a million times, that I want to like seriously start a gun because they're like, you know, we've played it about 1,000 times. I'm looking at you, Telestrations. You know,
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see that game again. But anyway,
I've never played it. It's on my shelf. I've never played it.
it's a great game if you haven't played it about 1 billion times. Anyway, so I pull out a game and immediate resistance, like, oh, we don't know this game, we don't like it, we hate it, we hate these things, precious, you know. So like I get all that kind of wailing, and I'm like, fine, you know what, these are easy games. So I pulled out a game that I got from Gen Con. It's called Miskatonic University. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick on Board Game Geek. But it's a great little game because it's actually very easy to play. It didn't take a lot of work to teach the family, even though like they didn't. And I'm saying this not because I don't love my family. I do. I'm saying this because I'm sure there's other people out there that have this struggle. That anytime you want to play a game, they say that is your game, air quotes. Like that is like, you know, we don't like your games, and they don't even know what it is, right? So I got this game. It came as part of that charity bag thing that I got.
Bundle.
$70, and I got the bundle, right?
Yeah.
So this was a game 6.1. That's probably about right. It's a 1.71 rating. I mean, it's not complicated. Like basically what you have are these cards. Let me show you a picture here. So you have these cards here, and you draw from this library deck right here, and you're going to get one of 3 cards. You're going to get one of these graduate students. You're going to get one of these sigils, or you're going to get a page from the grimoire. Okay? Anytime, so, and your goal is to collect this sanity that's right here. The higher the points you get, you win the game, right? Whenever you leave the library, you take the lowest sanity card. So you're kind of playing chicken with your other players and trying to stay in the library as long as you can. Okay. Now what happens is if you draw a card and it's a duplicate of one of these sigil ones or one of these spell ones, you get kicked out of the library and you don't even get to draw a card. Okay. So, you're trying to like do it, but when you make a match, then you get to clear your board of that section right there, and you get to take a 3-point lore card. So you want to make those matches to get the extra points, but you run the risk of drawing a duplicate card that will get you forced out of the library, and you don't get to collect anything, right? Now, what you do have here, these 7 cards right here, these are called your defense cards, and they do different things. Like, for example, this little guy right here, see if I can go in even further. Oh, yeah, nice. This little guy right here, you see those 3 cards right there. You can draw the 3 top cards of the deck and show them and then choose which card you want to take, right? So that'll help you if you've got like a bunch of cards, and chances are you get this, right? Like this other one, so you draw a card and you can discard it. But once you use these, you have to flip them over. So like this is face up, this is like face down, this guy right here. So you can't use it again. But that's where the graduate students come into play. Once you get 4 graduate students, you can turn those in and flip one of your defensive cards over and use it again in a thing. So super easy, super simple. After much protesting and gnashing and wailing of teeth and all of that stuff, I guess wailing and gnashing of teeth, we ended up playing it, and the kids all pretty much liked it. And like even my 10-year-old was like, I totally get this game. And she almost won. You know what I mean? So
and she understood graduate student.
She understood graduate students, exactly.
And sigil. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
There's a great little line in there, which is like there's one card in here, this card right here at the bottom. Instead of after you draw a card that would get you kicked out, you can flip that over and flee the library. You still get to take the sanity, but you lose your graduate students that were with you. And the line in the instructions were like, because we all know how expendable they are, right?
As a former graduate student, I resemble that remark. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that was fun. It ended up being a really fun game. And I'm glad that like we took the time to work through the consternation that was in the beginning, because I think everybody had a pretty good time with it. And when I asked my son if he liked it and he says, okay, that means it was great. That means it was great. So
he's 15.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
High praise.
Yeah.
High praise.
Well, you in those bags, you get kind of some perverse incentives because you have a hidden bag of games and you don't know who you're going to play them with and when and why. And you don't even know what you're getting, but you're getting a great deal. And I'm addicted to the great deal. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, there were 6 games that were out there. And there were basically 2 games in each pair. Okay. And you got to choose one game from each pair. And then a mystery gift came out of the wall.
Okay.
So you didn't know what the mystery gift was all about. But
in the old days, it was open the cardboard. That's what you get. That's what I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the 2 games that I have gotten from this, the first one was Panorama and this Miskatonic University. They have both been hits with my family so far. So I'm 2 for 3. I got to try out the third one a little bit more. It's a little bit more complicated. So I got to ease them into that. But so far,
not every game is a family game.
Right. Exactly.
So don't 100%. Feel like they're the ultimate litmus test.
I listen. I agree with that too. Right. Yeah. So,
sorry, I interrupted you. I apologize.
No. The other thing I was going to say for my Geek Week is I got a code the other day for a free game by Pandemic Studios. And it's called Surviving the Aftermath. And basically, it's one of those city builder catastrophe style game, kind of like Cities, where you like have to like plan and stuff like that. But it's like there was an event where basically a whole bunch of meteors came crashing down on Earth and caused basically an apocalyptic wasteland, and you got to try to survive. And you have bandits that come, you have nuclear winters that come, and all this stuff. And you got to build up your cities and make sure that you're building greenhouses to protect from like acid rain and, just all sorts of different things. And you're managing it. And it has been a time suck. It was a free game that I got for a code, some Black Friday special or something. But I've probably sunk like in the last week, I don't know, maybe 30 hours into it or something like that. Just building my city and making sure my people don't die. But I'm not going to lie. There's been a couple of times where we had a nuclear winter, and I think I went from 180 survivors in my camp to 120.
Oh my
Like, it was a
goodness.
bad winter, guys.
Wow.
Yeah. What happened is, this is what's so funny, is right before the winter hit, I saw my food reserves just plummeting. And I was like, what is happening here? And I didn't realize that I hadn't built enough storage. So all my food was just sitting outside and rotting.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it told me like, hey, your storage is a little low, but I couldn't tell like what that really meant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I found out the hard way by
You know,
having like
Justin,
a third of my
now's the time to learn these lessons.
right, exactly.
Yeah. It's a prepper game. It's preparing
It's a
you.
total prepper game. It's a total prepper game. Yeah, it's The Walking Dead without the zombies. You know, so. But yeah, that was a fun game that I've been playing, and I'm glad I got it. I mean, it was a code like, here you go, here's a free code for this. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Just got it from Epic Games, so
Good job, man.
yeah, so that's good.
Hey, before we change, I want to circle back to Jay's documentary. It reminded me that Kevin James, the comedian and sitcom guy, had his buddy Adam Sandler narrate a video of him. He's in a bear costume in the forest, and it's actually pretty hysterical. So Adam Sandler is doing David Attenborough, and Kevin James is a wild animal in a bear suit with his face open. So he's in this dumb like cotton bear suit. Anyway, it's on YouTube. You should go check it out. Anyway, it's called Nature Planet. Nature Planet. It's worth the 5 minutes. If you can't replay Jay's documentary of him doing the rock and roll thing, you can go there.
For the record, Kevin James's YouTube channel is comedy gold.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good to know.
Like he's got like the sound man where
Yeah.
he like inserts himself as like the sound boomer, like boom guy on different like you know, sound stages.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
you know, it's so funny. It is so funny. So yeah, so good. My favorite one that he has is where he's in the scene with Daniel Day-Lewis from There Will Be Blood. And it's I drink your milkshake, and he's like drinking a milkshake, and he's just like why? Okay, you can have it.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's good stuff.
It's so funny.
All right,
So,
here we go. It's time
let's
for
talk
the
about some
news. Let's see. Welcome to Tabletop and Beyond News. You're welcome.
That was an interesting one, Dan.
I didn't actually listen to that one before I played it. It was kind of a dealer's choice. Let me just say that.
I was kind of like it was like a documentary intro almost.
There you go. That was for David Attenborough.
Yeah.
We loved Sir
There you
David
go.
Attenborough. All right. Not a lot of news happening, of course. We are in the pre-holiday season. We're not going to talk about Black Friday specials or anything like that. But for those of you who don't know, Renegade Studio does have a fully functional Transformers RPG role-playing game, which is selling pretty good. And they have a new supplement out that is interesting. It's called the Enigma of Combination Sourcebook. And it's about the Transformers where you have multiple Transformers that form into a big Transformer. And it's a whole campaign book around doing that. So it's like Devastator, Superion, Defensor, or other Transformers that combine together. I don't know if you guys remember Transformers. You guys there were the headmasters. You'd have a little Transformer running around. He'd transform into a head of a bigger Transformer. All this stuff now is in a source book. So if you want to get together a campaign where everyone's a Constructicon, right? Everyone's a Constructicon, and you have to work together to form your super robot.
So it's like Voltron.
Voltron, yes,
I mean,
exactly.
wrong IP. I'm probably
I
gonna
know.
get lambasted for that.
Stop, yeah, you're
For the
gonna
three
get
people
pounced
that
on.
listen
But
to this show.
Transformers has been out a little while, Justin. But
Yes.
anyway, in the IP, they have lots of different teams of Transformers that form up into one. And as a kid, collecting those was a high activity. It was a high art to go get all 6 planes that turned into the big airplane guy. So anyway, I want to let you know that's available out there.
Thank you, Dan. I'd like to point out that according to the Transformers Wikipedia, the Enigma of Combination is one of the artifacts of the 13. Possessed by a Nexus Prime, it is not only capable of fostering unity and cooperation of the minds of sentient creatures in its proximity, but also of bestowing one of the greatest abilities known to Cybertronians, that of combination.
Of combination.
Yes.
See, this is the next role-playing game for my group that's fighting.
So here's a
That's
quiz.
right.
Here's a quiz, because you can read Wikipedia.
Yes.
You know what the matrix of leadership is?
Yeah. Optimus.
No,
Prime
not you,
had
not
it.
you. Oh, you gave
sorry.
it.
Are you
okay.
not?
I don't
Are you?
remember it.
Are you in? You got to watch the '80s cartoon. I have it in 4K Blu-ray.
So
if you have
listen,
Yeah, it's worth it.
listen, I both of you are about, I think, 4 years older than me. Maybe
I
3
think
or
I'm
4 years
older
older
than
than me.
Jason, and Jason's older than you.
Yeah, and so, but the thing is I think that was enough of a gap that Transformers was, I think, off of like the rotation when I started watching cartoons.
You poor sap got stuck with Power Rangers, which was
no. I was pre-Power
G.I.
Rangers.
Joe.
I was pre-Power
Okay.
Rangers.
You were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, you were Were you Captain Planet?
Yes, Captain Planet.
Oh.
Teenage Mutant
What about
Ninja Turtles. Jim was on there.
That
was truly outrageous.
Jim.
She's truly outrageous.
We all watched Jim. We know it.
She-Ra for all the wrong
reasons. Was it was Batman the Animated Series?
Oh well, that was classic. That holds up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get off of memory lane. We're into news item 2. Now, usually, Justin found out that I've been deep sixing Paizo news for about 2 years, 3 years, because I find most Paizo news pretty boring. I'm sorry, Paizo. Now, they have just published, you can buy right now, 2 new core books, the Player Core book and the Pathfinder GM Core, for their new edition, which is now completely compatible with the Orc license. So if you guys remember, Wizards of the Coast was playing Hinky Dinky with the OGL license that Paizo was based on.
Yeah.
So Paizo with some other RPG groups have made the Open RPG Creative License, which is the ORC. And it is a truly open license. And this is all part of that backlash. So the first real major products coming out that are completely separate and independent from Wizards of the Coast it's now available from Paizo. So if you love the universe of fantasy role-playing game, and you don't want to give a nickel in any way, shape, or form to Wizards for screwing players and small content creators, you can. And they've got a monster core book coming out very soon and a second player core. So for you folks that want to cut the cord, this is the perfect time to do it. There are some other great games out there that do not rely on the open gaming license. Level Up by Ian World Publishing comes to mind. There's a bunch of other ones that are quite good. But this one will probably be the biggest of all the RPGs that are based in the old D20 model, but everything has been completely scrubbed of anything that looks like it's a WotC D&D product.
Yeah, so the big thing I think of this is that like Kybal Press is making their own like D20 RPG, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to have echoes of D&D in it, right? You're going to feel those echoes throughout, but it's going to be different. Paizo said, you know what? Like, we're going to take this Orc license at its word, and we're just going to lean back into it. Like they had leaned into the OGL. Now, this is obviously more.
Well, they helped create the Orc license. They were involved.
Exactly.
But it's held by a third party. It's not held by Paizo.
Exactly. So they're leaning back into it. Interestingly, Free League Press, when they published their Lord of the Rings 5th edition version, because they come out with a One Ring edition, which is based on their Mutant Zero or Year Zero engine, and then they also put it out in the 5th edition. That 5th edition was compatible with the Orc license when they first put it out. I think they were one of the first to actually release under the Orc license. So kind of interesting.
This will be kind of one of the second largest RPG on the market today is Pathfinder. So the second largest RPG is completely untethered, and that's kind of like non-trivial. We have to pay attention to that.
Sure, 100%.
I think the nice thing about
you
the
can't deep six it.
the nice thing about the org license is didn't they intentionally made it a third party that I think was not intended to ever produce their own product, so that they wouldn't get into the situation that the OGL did, where there could be a bias.
Yeah,
It's just like a lawyer company.
It's
isn't it?
Azora Law managing partner. It's Azora Law is the entity that actually.
So assuming that Azora Law doesn't ever decide to make their own reference work, then essentially there shouldn't ever really pop up a bias towards monetization of the license.
I think that's a safe bet.
Yep. Let's cross fingers.
So yeah, who knows? Yeah, I mean they're law firms, so you never know.
Yeah.
So that's the news. I'm going to hand it back to you, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan, for prepping that. We haven't had the news in a little while, so it was nice to have some news articles. I will say that, this is coming out after a lot of the Cyber Monday, Black Friday deals, but we did mention last week, if you're not looking at Miniature Market this time of year, you're doing something wrong, because there's some amazing deals, and it's way too easy to spend money there right now. So.
They don't get a nickel from us, by the way. We got to stop plugging them.
It's hard to when I get.
We don't get a nickel from them. Is what I mean.
Yeah,
it's hard. I know.
It's true. So
it's
anyway,
hard. No, trust me. There was a something I wanted that had been $25, and now it got down to $6, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
just not doing it. I gotta play what I bought over the last 5 years.
It's true. It's funny because I got like 3 games, and my wife's like, "You have to stop buying games." I'm like, this is weak, Lauren. This is really like compared to my friends, this is nothing. You know?
Yeah.
And I almost threw your name out there, Dan, but I said, you know what? I gotta be a homie. I gotta be a homie for my guy Dan.
No, I just threw my other RPG group under the bus tonight, so we got a lot of shibs in the back around here.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about our main topic tonight, which is Alone Against the Static. And this is a solo adventure. And our viewers will remember us showing this, I think back in June. They made the announcement, right? Alone Against the Static. It is a solo adventure set in the 1990s in the Black Hills of North Dakota. And you can get your copy, now basically.
I think it's South Dakota, right?
Oh, South Dakota. Yeah, thank you. So what's interesting is it says releasing in October, but it's really November, but that's okay. I'm sure there's probably some production issues and stuff like that, but it is available now that you can do this. That name, Alone Against the Static, I just want to, for our listeners out there that are not familiar, this is a long tradition of these solo adventures from Chaosium, specifically in the Call of Cthulhu line, that begin actually with the starter set. And it's on my shelf, but I'll pull it up later. But the very first book that you pull out of the starter set of Call of Cthulhu is Alone Against the Flames, which is a short, like 30 to 45-minute adventure that you can play that basically teaches you how to play the game Call of Cthulhu. And so other people have written, third-party people have written Alone Against the Darkness, Alone Against the Cold, Alone Against the Mountain. Like Alone Against is kind of their reference to solo RPG. Yep. So you'll kind of see that out there. The other thing that I want to mention about this is it's written by B.W. Holland. I could not verify this before the show, but I'm almost positive that this is Brian Holland that wrote this, who is actually the marketing manager for Chaosium. I have a lot of interaction with him as we get, again, some of our review copies.
Yeah, I mean, he's referenced in the bottom at the back end of the document.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
Yep.
All right. I haven't gotten to the very back end of the document yet, so yeah.
I always like to start from the back.
Fair enough. So before we get into this, though, because we all had an opportunity to kind of crack it open and check it out, well, digitally anyway. Before I get into this, let's just talk about solo RPGs real quick. What are your thoughts? What are your guys' thoughts about solo RPGs?
They're video games.
They're video games.
I go back to solo RPGs back to the 1980s when the original West End Games the original Star Wars West End Games RPG book had a short solo adventure in there, and then they also published 2 solo adventures that I never picked up. But the purpose of the solo adventure was much like the same purpose of the starter kit, which is to teach a GM how to be a GM and how the flow of the game goes. So I've been around solo RPGs since the late 80s.
Yeah. So the solo RPGs, they look a lot and feel a lot like the choose your own adventures that we had growing up, right? That were some of our favorite things. And so, like, for example, you can see like this is some entries from the game where you've got numbered entries and you read the text and then it says, if you do as the voice says, go to 314. To flee, go to 305. So it's very much the same vein as a choose your own adventure. But what's the difference between those awesome books that we all read in the 80s versus a solo RPG that you're playing?
The dice is the determiner of the fork in the story besides your choice. So, and now here,
but I don't think they have to be, right? Because role-playing game, we historically think of it as a dice-based arbitrator game, but it doesn't have to be a dice-based arbitration.
Correct.
So at any time you're actually like role-playing your character, I think in the choose your own adventure. So I'm jumping in here, but I think in the choose your own adventure games from past times, you were role-playing. You weren't role-playing. You were just choosing the path for the little kid in the book that you were reading, Sally or Billy or something, who you got like one tiny little page of backstory on as he was walking into his bedroom to knock 3 times on the wall in the back of his closet. And then you were just guiding him through the story. Or I think in these solo RPGs, you're kind of creating your own persona. Your player that you can bring to the table. It makes it a little bit different in my mind.
I think that's fair. I think because there's a lot of choices I made in this adventure that had nothing to do with dice. Right. There were absolutely some choices that I had to do with dice. And that is, Dan, I think like probably the primary determining factor between this and like a choose your own adventure, because you're not rolling dice as you were reading those. So, I mean, that's a pretty big difference. But Jason, I like your point that you made. Like there were times that I was going through this and I'm like, my character's kind of neurotic. Like he's kind of like kind of dramatic. So I'm going to pick the most dramatic thing I could do right now, and roll with that. And I don't think I really had that choice doing the choose your own adventures. It was like either open the door or open the window. You know what I mean? Like it was it wasn't a chance to kind of dive in and role play, as you were saying.
It wasn't as character development
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that's one of the limitations of the solo RPG format is you're kind of it feels like you're on rails. You're not. You're on a gigantic branching tree. Character development is really the narrator author's purview. One of the interesting things about this exact product was that it actually required you to understand the basics of how the RPG flows, and I didn't have a copy, and I've never actually ran the Chaosium Call of Cthulhu game. And that was problematic for me because I was used to having solo RPGs just tell me what to do. And then I had to go watch a YouTube video totally separate from Chaosium to say, it's a D100. It's a D100 roll low. Okay, got it. And that was actually a bit of a barrier for me to jump into it. Because the assumption of the product is that you already know the RPG, you're aware of the rules, and that this is a companion to your starter kit or companion to your core rulebook. I think for a solo RPG, I disagree with that as an approach. It is an approach. It probably saved them space, but I found it would have been better if I would have had more paint by numbers without having to go to a third party to figure out if I was succeeding or failing.
Or even just if you've never played Cthulhu before, like click on this link for a brief intro video.
Right. And all
You
I
know,
needed
I
was
mean-
like 3 or 4 paragraphs.
Yeah.
But I
mean,
I was used to these things teaching me as I go, and
Sure.
that was what I was disappointed. Quite frankly.
Yeah, which Alone Against the Flames in the starter book absolutely did that, right?
Yeah.
And you also
Yeah.
had a little rule guide, like a light
Yeah.
rule book that you could reference as well. And so, you know, it's funny because Dan, I didn't even think about that with this, and because I've GM'd
Yeah.
Cthulhu and I played it, so I just jumped right in. I didn't even think about like if I had never played this before, how would I do that? And so I think that's a really interesting point.
I think it's an interesting missed opportunity because playing through this adventure, there was nothing here I needed to know from the core rulebook besides the single mechanic of roll under my number.
Yeah.
That's
There
true.
was nothing else. Like, why can they just say that in a sentence right at the beginning?
Yeah. Right up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no like special skill that I would have had to have the rulebook to look up. It was just, I didn't feel like there was really any reason not to say that up front. But I did notice that they said must have core rulebook. It's like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to miss something. I knew how to play the game though, and I never had a problem.
Yeah.
Getting
You know,
through it.
it's funny because like the starter adventure, the solo adventure, it doesn't state it up in the top thing. It's like as you go through, on the first chance you have to roll your dice, it'll say a little paragraph. Cthulhu is a game where you roll 2d100 or 2d10s. You take one of your 10s, one's your ones, and then you roll under it, right? So
I must have missed it.
You know, no, that's
You
in the
did say that.
starter.
Oh, that's in the other. Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, and so they could have easily put that in the very first time that you rolled your dice. You know, do it. Now, what's interesting is I don't know that everybody got to the same place to roll your dice the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it branched pretty early to different avenues.
But they could track the branches.
totally.
That's not
Totally.
hard to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one critique, and so buyer beware. Just know you're going to have to brush up on the system real quick, and it's real easy. We'll tell you right now. You know, 2d10, figure out which is, you know, do your d100 and roll low under your stat. Yeah. So that's just a thing you need to be aware. The log sheet, I thought the ticking off mechanic was good, where they have a sheet where they have all these different statuses and you get to tick them off once you trigger a status. I thought that was quite good, and that was
I did too.
That was well designed.
I thought that was really good, actually. It's one of the better kind of things I've seen. So that's page 98, Justin, if you go down.
Yep, thanks. Yep, right here.
99,
There's-
PDF page 99.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
So this log sheet, I like this a lot because what it did, in my opinion, is it added some interesting aspects of, like, you know, if you had made a certain choice way back when, it influenced which branch you would end up taking, which I thought was great because I think that just kind of added to the character development there because you're going along with your choices. And I haven't seen a solo adventure. Now, granted, I full disclosure, I've only played the starter set solo adventure. I haven't played a lot of the other ones or really dived into them. So some of them may have a log sheet like this, but I thought that this was really good. I also enjoyed on this one sheet the dying and going insane explanation right here. They really simplified it down so that you knew, like, if you were in trouble. Which, by the way, I think right now I'm not even done with the adventure 100% yet. But I've got like 4 hit points left.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Like,
we've had totally different playthroughs.
Yeah. And my sanity has just been ticking down like crazy too. So
That's crazy. I played through the game. It took me about an hour and 15 minutes to play through. I only lost 2 sanity points and 1 hit point.
You're
Seriously?
amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm like not done yet, and I'm down to, like, you start out at 60 sanity points. I'm like down at 52 and sanity, and like I'm down to like 4 hit points. Like, things are just getting wild in my life.
You're making some different choices then. Are you playing Alex or Charlie?
I am playing Alex.
So that's a good point, right? If you want to go back up to the top, that's kind of the first big decision you make when you play the game.
Yeah, which character?
Yeah, slide or page 7, I think, 7 or 10, depending on how the There you go.
Oop,
9.
right here.
Yeah. Yeah, you
So-
pick. Who am I going to be?
Yeah, Alex or Charlie. Now, okay, so here's
Two
one of
troubled
my
lovers.
little. What's that?
2 troubled lovers.
Yeah.
Well, that was the
they're
problem,
smart.
guys. I couldn't get past the first section of it because there were too many things in my real life competing against it, like being a dad and an employee and
Okay.
having commitments. So
So
I
you couldn't
never-
get past it because you didn't have time to actually play the game.
yeah, I never got
Okay.
past them just like complaining and being on a vacation together.
Yeah.
You
There's
know, and
I
I
would
was
say
like,
it was pretty slow. I was like, this better speed up pretty quick. I was getting sick of doing like mundane stuff like, do I fry the eggs or do I wash
Yes.
my hands? I'm like, I don't care. You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
I never got past any of that. This was like kind of the nightmarish part for me, is because it's like, oh, I'm stuck on a date with a woman complaining. I'm like,
I didn't realize
oh,
this was a horror game.
this is a horror game. This is Call of Cthulhu. The great monster from the deep has arrived, and she's mad about something I've done.
Yeah, I remember at one point, one of the decisions was, do you decide to get in bed and watch TV now or first go brush your teeth? And I was like,
Yeah.
are you like, really?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I was
know.
like,
Go
okay,
get ready
just
for
get-
bed so I don't have to do it later.
Just move on. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
lost. The author lost me. I'm sorry. I never got to anything magical. I never got past the date. I never got.
Well,
I
I will
never
say-
got it.
As soon as you get to, I mean, there's
Mhm.
a pretty important part that happens like after they get to the cabin.
Well, yeah,
Once
like
you-
right after I brushed my teeth, then the decision started meaning something.
and all of a sudden it started picking
Spoiler.
up, like
Oh
right
yeah,
up.
it
But you
picked up
need
pretty
that.
quick.
I needed that because I found it really kind of a name.
It picked up pretty quick once it did.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
I might
And-
get back to it.
And I you know, there wasn't a lot of the annoying, you know, partner stuff that was
No,
happening.
it all went. That all left. Well,
Yeah.
Probably depends again on the choices you did. I had annoying early choices when okay, they're just trying to help me learn how to choose how the choice system works. You know, that like okay,
Yeah.
just to get some experience and exposure to it. And then it started picking up and getting a little like, you know, psychologically intense.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got easy again. And I was kind of wandering around through the woods for a little bit. And then it started to get interesting again. And then it never let up after that. It was pretty good from that point forward.
Okay, so we had very different experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Because like, you know, it was kind of like the, you know, troubled relationship, set the scene, you know, this is what's happening, this is why you're at the cabin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the minute that like it goes and, you know, like things start picking up, yeah, like I guess then like there was a point where I was making my breakfast and like, you know, having a breath of fresh air. Like there was a little bit of that,
Yeah.
but like I died like almost instantly after that at one point, and
Wow.
I had to backtrack. I had to kind of, you know, like rewind a little bit.
Whoops.
Find a
yeah.
save point. Find a save point.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
Well, and here's one of the things in there is it says you might want to mark this number down in case you need it for later. That's your save point, Dan. Literally.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what I went back to. So I died once, then I rewound, and things still got crazy, and then I died again, and then rewound again, and like, dude, but again, I was playing this guy as like a neurotic, sort of self-absorbed psychopath a little bit, you know. I mean, and so I was like, I would not make this choice, but he totally would. So you know, so that's how I was playing it, and you know, like.
And why am I worried that she's mad at me in the cabin? Why do I care? This is a fantasy activity. Why am I trying to get on her good side?
I think it plays. I mean, I think that it plays into why things are happening later on a little bit. So,
No. All right,
and why you're in the situation that you're in.
I just
Your
got
early
to.
decisions absolutely affect the end game.
I just got to get to that teeth brushing thing. I'll try again.
That's
Here's the
right.
problem. Let's be quite honest. Okay,
But do you floss?
Well,
Yeah, but no.
we are. It is a horror story, so
Yeah.
you know.
If so, turn to 102.
Turn to 102. If you don't floss, you should go floss right now, player. Go floss. Don't.
There
You-
is
you-
yeah.
If you say no to fantasy flossing, you're broken. Okay. If you can't imagine yourself flossing, anyway. Here's my problem with solo RPGs is that they're solo, and RPGs are very social, and they're in some ways much more social than a board game because you create a shared narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I find building a shared narrative with the author who I'm removed from and when I have other human beings competing for my time, I couldn't stick with it. I couldn't get my head into it, and there was other things I had to do.
Yeah.
And so that's not a fault of this product.
Right.
I can imagine a person getting through the solo RPG in the starter box and going, wow, that was fantastic. I don't have a group to play this with. Oh, look, they have a standalone hardbound book. I can't wait to get that. Oh, it's X number hundreds of pages. This will be amazing. So that's great. That's great for that particular player. But I need the human beings. I need the human contact, and that's what I guess that's what I enjoy at RPGs. That's why we keep doing them.
So, Jason, how long did it take you to play this? You said about an hour 15.
About an hour 15, and I put on the background some ominous, scary music from YouTube the whole time I was playing it. So it really set the theme. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah,
which I recommend doing, by the way, if you're going to play.
Yeah.
Put on one of those, 10 hours of ambient horror walking through the woods music.
And play at night in the dark, except for your monitor.
It's fun. It was fun that way.
Like I said, I haven't quite finished it yet. But I'm probably about an hour in, so I'm only like 15 minutes behind. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm near the end of this. I
feel like there's about 350 different rule sections or choice blocks.
Yeah.
And it pretty much, it bounces a little bit, but as you get near the high ends, you're getting near the end of the game.
And I'm like literally just read 301, right? Okay. So like I'm getting really close.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Dan, is like I have to approach these as a different kind of RPG.
Totally.
For the exact reason that you just stated, right?
Yeah.
Because I do love RPGs where we get to create the social construct together as players. I mean, we played Pirate Borg like a couple months ago, right? It was about a month ago. And we came out with some amazing stories together from it. But this one is a little bit different because it's you. I mean, it's a solo game, and
the dice and the die rolls
and the dice. Yeah, sure, exactly. And so the thing that I like to do is I like to just like really push through as quickly as I can, almost to make it like a book. Yeah. And so I feel like I'm reading a book, and I'm creating sort of that ambient horror. And Jason, I think your comparison of like this is a video game was very apt here. Mm-hmm. And maybe you can kind of like describe why this is more of a video game than a book.
I was thinking about what Dan said. And if you mainly play role-playing games with friends, this would be kind of maybe not your kind of thing, right? But if you are the kind of person that sets aside time to play solo video games, then this just is like playing and you like to read solo video games, and you like to read like good reading, right?
So you like playing a Bethesda game?
Yeah, something like that. Then this is it's once again, video games are kind of time by yourself. If you're playing a solo one, this is time by yourself with reading and a little bit of dice rolling. So I think it's alone time for sure. Obviously, alone against the static. But it's a different experience. It's not an experience now. A lot of video games are social, right? And we played a social one recently. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was kind of a choose your own.
As Dusk Falls?
Dusk Falls, yeah. Which was, we should talk about that one at some point. But I feel like it's very video game, especially the fact that you can replay it. You can go back, you can make different choices, you can kind of have this quasi save point. They even put little notes at the bottom of each section. They put like in parentheses how you could have gotten here before, so that you can backtrack if you wanted to do something there, if you wanted to cheat. But I really thought that it was a fun experience. But I knew I was gonna just have some alone time with a little bit of a horror session.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's bad. It seemed very good, very well made. But
I'll tell you this though,
it's for a market. It's a product for a market, and
I like this. Yeah, I've played several solo things before. I like this one a lot better. I've talked in the past. It's been a long time about Star Smuggler, which is a print and play thing, right? And that is like there are like 400 some rules, like 400 different events that can happen. You're taking your spaceship across different galaxies. You're assembling the galaxies, and you know what? That just feels like work.
Yeah,
it just feels like work every time I try to play. I'm like, this is gonna be so fun. I'm gonna, and then I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is like a full-time job, like playing this game. This was an hour and 15 minutes of like watching basically this horror story develop and being able to partake in that story a little bit. So it was kind of cool.
And have ownership over the choices too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I will say this though. I'm curious when you get, Justin, we'll talk off camera when you get through it. I really enjoy. I was bored by the beginning.
Okay.
So I'm not
really enjoyed the middle.
The middle.
Yeah.
The middle really started to build. Was a great experience in the middle. The end came fast, and I didn't feel like it fit with all of my choices.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm curious to see what your experience is.
Now, and to be fair, there's like multiple endings.
There are a few,
game, right?
There are a few endings.
There was one that I did, and it's just like, well, I'm dead now. I mean, it's literally like it gave me an old text of like what happened and everything like that.
Congratulations, you have reached the earliest point you could end the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like somewhere like 38. I'm not even kidding you. Like it was. I
think I was still flipping eggs at 38.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, there's some pretty wild things that happen, but it was like I enjoyed I have enjoyed the roller coaster so far, and if you look at it like a roller coaster, the beginning was like that little boring part that you're climbing up to the top.
Yeah, tick 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 tick.
And you just have to kind of look at it that way. And one thing that I wanted to, and maybe we'll close out on this, but one thing that I wanted to compare this to was Alan Wake. And the reason that I'm comparing this, the reason I'm comparing this to Alan Wake, and for those of you who don't know, it's a video game that came out, what was it, maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like that. It came out on the Xbox 360, so it was even longer than 10 years ago. But anyway, this is the one where the couple went to a cabin to get away. In fact, they went to an island.
He was a writer, I think.
Cabin. He was a writer, and he had writer's block, and his wife kind of set him up where like they brought him into the cabin. She's like, look, I got the typewriter all ready for you, so you can like have this time. And he's like, I just wanted to be away. So they had this little argument spat, about this. And then all of a sudden she disappeared, and he was going around with a flashlight, kind of freaked out in the dark, trying to figure out what was going on. Right. And so
it never gets better.
And it never gets better. Right. From there. And yeah. Right. So I feel like this had, some very strong Alan Wake vibes.
I felt that a lot. Yeah.
And so if you like that video game, I think that this is a game that you would very much enjoy playing.
Also, if you've seen Knock at the Cabin.
Yep.
This has some quotes from that in it.
Yes.
See if you can find them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
cool.
There's some good references in here.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I don't like, and I'm just gonna say it. But you can choose to play either Alex or Charlie, which is cool. But because you can either play a male or female, they use non-gendered language in there, and sometimes I found it confusing. Right? Like instead of saying like she or him, or
there's a lot of theirs and theys.
There's a lot of theirs and theys. And like just sometimes just reading that can throw you off, being like, well, who's they? Like how many people
is
are
there
here
another person?
Yeah, exactly. And so like sometimes that can throw you off a little bit. And I want to be very clear that this was not done because of some woke thing or whatever. This was clearly done because they wanted to give you the choice of playing a male or female character, and just the way that it's written, they couldn't just like they couldn't just
Yeah, they had to
swap the
use the
language out.
multiple story points for whichever one you had chosen.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it makes sense.
So
It
yeah.
makes sense.
I thought they did an okay job with it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. So
would you recommend this as a buy? I would recommend it for someone who loved the starter box and loved the solo adventures. Chaosium makes great solo adventures. If
How
you've
much
been
is it?
down that road,
How much does it cost?
that's a great question. It's not out for sale right now, but let's see if they had a. Oh, I just totally.
The white screen of life.
yeah,
The white
yeah.
screen of life.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my one playthrough, I got an hour and 15. I'm pretty sure if I played through it again, it would probably be about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think if it's like under $30,
So
maybe.
let's see.
If it was
Alone
20,
Against-
I would probably absolutely recommend it.
So I think.
gosh, look at that,
If this
20.
is going, if this is like, so this is a hardbound book, right? It's $15.
Yeah.
The PDF is like $7, right? I mean,
Totally.
this is like $9 and $20. So
So 20
Yeah.
bucks, absolutely. For PDF, $8 for a PDF, sure, you bet.
yeah,
You're gonna get a couple, maybe 3 hours worth of enjoyment out of it. That'll be worth the money.
yeah. I mean, like I think the measure that we like to use a lot of times is how much does it cost to go to the movie theaters,
Yep.
right? And so you're paying like $15 to $18 sometimes to
Yeah. Or how
go
many
see a
Chick-fil-A sandwiches is this?
Well,
So-
and they have a game master value too. If it gives you as the GM story ideas to build off of and mechanics and a flow, you can crib a lot of stuff out of this and customize it for your characters and what they're interested in. Especially for less experienced GMs or GMs that are less experienced in the genre.
yeah.
They can be very, very helpful and enjoyable, fun and helpful at the same time.
Yep.
100%. I would totally recommend this for someone who's interested in getting into playing Call of Cthulhu that needs to kind of learn the genre a little bit more and how horror works. You know, like because there's some ups and downs, right? In this, again, it was kind of a roller coaster in here, and that's how horror is supposed to work. It's supposed to play with you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so to do that, like I think that these solo ones give a really, really good flavor of what this game is and what it's supposed to be. And I know that it helped me set the tone when I went to go run the game for other people because I understood the tone of the game, not just the mechanics.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that was great. So,
And it teaches you not to have the monster, eat the other person in the cabin in the first 5 minutes of the adventure.
Yep.
And sometimes that takes learning if you don't know it. If you're not familiar producing a story in the genre.
right. 100%.
So, yeah. Cool.
So
Good
you
stuff.
guys can check this out. Go to chaosium.com. I'm sure it'll be up on there, but you can also go to chaosium.com/solo-call-of-Cthulhu, solo call of Cthulhu, and you'll find all of that stuff. You can probably also Google Alone Against the Static, and it will pull up for you where you can get it. So check it out and listen. We love Chaosium. Give them your money because it keeps them in business, and we keep getting cool products. So
We do love Chaosium. I will give them an extra star just because it's Chaosium and the production value is great, and the writing was very good too. It's just pacing and writing quality are not the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. So thank you guys for listening to the show tonight. We hope you have a wonderful holidays coming up. Stay tuned for some of our episodes coming up in December, and we hope to hear from you. So thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful night, and we'll see you at the tables.
See ya.
Bye.